Hello, team. Today's challenge is Good Day, where we're given an hour a minute format in 24-hour time, and we need to figure out if it is morning, afternoon, evening, or night based on these ranges. And the tricky part will be the night, where it spans over the course of midnight. So it resets back to zero, which means that the end time is actually less than the start time. But I think we can take care of all this. So over to the code. I've taken the liberty of adding a map. And this is actually a map, so it's new map. And we use these ranges as the key, right? That allows us to test against this. And with the map being a fancy object, right? But it honors insertion order. So we'll be able to loop over these as they come and test against them, right? So down in here, we can absolutely do that. I'm going to set up a for loop, okay? And that's going to be whatever is coming off of this day zones. So I'm going to copy that and go of day zones, okay? And right here, we are going to pull that information out. So we have the start and end. Well, to get at it, we just drill down more, right? So we go start and end, and then outside of those, in this case, the yellow brackets, we can add in the second argument, which I'm going to call key, even though technically it's a value, but stay with me. It's just easier for my brain that way. So we get the start value, the end value, and the key, okay? Or technically the start time, the end time, and the key, okay? And you'll notice with this map, I did start at 0, and night appears twice. We'll get back to that, okay? Just keeping it simple to start so that we can focus on getting the code working, okay? So inside of here, with that information, we can test if what? If time is greater than equal to start and, too many ampersands, and time is less than equal to end. Okay, so if it is greater than equal to the start or less than equal to the end, then we do stuff. What do? Well, we return the string, okay, which is good. And then inside of here, key, okay? At which point this should work. It absolutely does. It is currently working on alphabetical order. We'll come back to that in just a second. But before that, we have this extra return. And I left it in there on purpose to remind myself that with this return, there's rarely going to be a chance where we get past this loop. But if we do, we should return something, right? And it shouldn't just be the time. It should do something else. So my advice here is throw new error, capital E error on that, and write a really useful message like, what? Right? Something. So keep that in there. Keep that in mind that error states are something you should be thinking of at a high level, okay? What happens if everything goes sideways on you, right? And there's, even though we've covered off the entire gamut of time, there's a chance that this could fail. As an example, right now we are comparing alphabetical. I just mentioned that, right? So what happens if time comes in without the leading 0? What happens if instead of it being 06 colon 30, it is just 6 colon 30, right? 630. We as humans know what that means, but our code will fail. And I can prove that by bringing in this, okay? This is not something that you need for this solution, but what I've done here is if the time starts with a 0, I get rid of it, right? I get rid of that leading 0. I return everything else, which means that now everything's failing if it has that leading 0, okay? And we need to solve for that. What is the solve? Well, the solve is to not use alphabetical sorting or alphabetical comparisons, right? Instead, we should do something else. So right here, we're going to introduce a new function. This is one that we've seen before, okay? It is time to minutes, okay? And then we pass in the time and we split it off if you remember this, we get the hours and the minutes like this. That is from time.split on the, why did I do double quotes? There it is on the colon, right? Return the time, right? So the time in minutes. It's going to be hours times 60 minutes, right? Plus whatever the minutes is, okay? And this all just works out because multiplication happens before addition. But these plus signs force our strings to be numbers, if you remember that, okay? I've used this in quite a few different challenges, so check those ones out too, okay? But with that, we can use that. So down here, right at the start, I'm going to put it underneath this. In fact, I'm going to comment that away for a second. I'm going to set up time in minutes, okay? And set that to time 2 minutes time, okay? We're going to do this a couple more. So right here, we could convert these to minute time and use it that way. But it's more likely that if somebody is entering this in a database or in a CMS or something like that, some sort of a form, they're probably entering it as hour minutes, right? So we should honor that, right? Which means that right here, we need to convert this to start minutes. And that is going to be start, just like this, and grabbing the start, multiple cursors, end, excellent. At this point, we can totally do that. So grabbing time again, pasting it in, changing this to start minutes, and this one to end minutes. Brilliant, okay? At which point, everything should still work. But now we have this situation where if they pass in bad time, it still works. And it still works well, right? Because we aren't converting, we aren't testing against alphabetical. Now we're testing against actual numbers. In this case, actual minutes, which is very, very important. Now, there is this thing here, right? Where we've done that. We probably should change this. So I've kind of failed here at capturing my previous attempt, but we're going to go with it. So I'm going to bring this back and copy this 459, okay? At which point I can delete this line and go down to 2359 and paste it in. So now we have just one night entry, right? Just one night entry, which means that we should add something extra, okay? We don't need to test against this anymore. We'll come back to that. But right below these minutes, start minutes, end minutes, we need to do a test, okay? In this case, we're going to grab is in range, okay? Seems like a good name. And we are going to test end minutes minus start minutes, okay? The idea here being that this could return a negative number. And if it does return a negative number, then our times are in the wrong place, right? And we should do something different based on that. It means that the end time is smaller than the start time. We can test all that with something like math.sign, right? And we see if that is equal to -1, okay? At which point now we have something here and something here. The second one is this test. So we can just go and grab it for a second, paste it in. And then the first one is similar, but not quite, okay? In this case, we have that start time. It is going to be greater than equal to start minutes, right? Because start minutes is our other number. So we flip this around, or, and this is the important part, or it is less than our end time, which is kind of weird, but it works, okay? So we are doing a comparison. If end time is smaller than start time, we are flipping our conditional. If it's not, if it's just normal, then we use our regular conditional. And then all that goes right here. We can paste that in, and this should still work, okay? Which is excellent, okay? We have a really good, really robust system in here. The thing that we should probably do if we really wanted to is we should check if time is between 0 and 24, right? Just to make sure that we aren't getting huge numbers. But I want to take this a different direction to wrap this up, okay? So here I'm going to grab all of this, just like this, comment that out. Where was that? I'm going to put a little thing here just to make sure that I've separated it properly. And down here, just so that we do a thing. Excellent. That way I can find it quickly later, okay? The thing that I want to do is I want to get rid of this for a second, okay? Because I want to switch to temporal. And there's a catch with temporal that if you're trying to do this with that and you took on this little line here, things will break. So I want to cover that off really fast, but let's get temporal in here first. I don't want to do Temporal.PlainTime all the time, okay? I want to recreate it once and then use it for all this to make it super fast. So if it is inside the function, it gets recreated every single time we call the function. I don't want that. We're going to go here and go PlainTime equals Temporal.PlainTime, like that, okay? And we just leave it, which means that now we can access PlainTime inside of here and do stuff with it, okay? The first thing here, you're going to notice that there are some lines in here, right? We can totally get rid of those. So that goes away and these go away just like this. And we can start to test some things. In order to make this a little bit easier to read, I'm going to bring that one down. But end minutes, start minutes. Well, it should be right here, plaintime.compare end, comma, start, okay? Brilliant. We're still doing the same comparison, but now we're using this PlainTime formatter. And notice we didn't have to convert any of the time stuff, which is excellent, right? That saves us so much time, or so many steps in doing that extra bit, okay? So we bring that down, we go here. This is going to be the same thing. So time and start minutes, okay? Time and start minutes, just like this. And we want to make sure that that is greater than equal to 1. Checking my stuff to make sure. Right there. Yes, greater than equal to 0. Sorry. That's why I have notes, right? Checking it to make sure. Otherwise, I could have really messed that up. But same thing here. So we have time and end minutes. In this case, we're going to do the end minutes first. So I can drop this to a new line and bring it in, plain text. We have the end and the start, and same thing, greater than equal to 0, okay? Doing that same thing, so time and start minutes. In fact, it is this same thing, but with an ampersand, okay? Which is kind of weird. So what we're doing here is it's going to return -1, 0, or +1, depending on if it is before, equal, or after the next time. If it's before, it's going to be negative. If it's equal, it's 0. If it's after, it's 1. Okay, so very handy sorting function if you're going to use it that way. But for us, this does all that work, and it should still work. What did I forget here? Checking. I seem to have end, start, time, and oh, this one should be time. Sorry, I forgot to change this. Time. Brilliant. Okay. And now it works. So comparing time and start, and then end and time and start, end and time, making sure that it is all good. The problem again is that if I bring this back, all of a sudden it breaks again, right? And this is why I wanted to bring this up. Again, it's those two. What is going on? Well, in this case, because we're passing in those strings, where did it go? Temporal.PlainTime expects it to be ISO 8601, right? So matching the ISO 8601 format, which is 2 digits, 2 digits, 2 digits, 2 digits. And we passed in something that didn't have a leading 0, right? So it doesn't accept that, which is a very curious decision when you think about it, right? We've tried to be very liberal in what we've accepted up here, which is why we converted it to numbers. And temporal plain time isn't liberal? That's so weird, right? Well, we can fix that by switching it out again. So right here we go time dot pad start, okay? And this is a bit of a hack because we need more tests. But just to prove to you that this will work as a basic solution, we have 5 characters, right? There's 2 numbers, a colon, 2 numbers, that's 5 characters. So we start out scrolling all the way down again. We start out by saying how many we want. We want at least 5, and we want it to be led with a 0, even as a string, just like this. And now we are back to normal. For this challenge, it doesn't really matter, right? If we get rid of this, it's going to work. If we get rid of the pad start, it's still going to work. But this is a gotcha, right? And when I hit this as I was working through this challenge, I wasn't happy with that. Like that feels very weird to me that temporal plain time would do something so simple where they block that input. So something to be aware of. If you don't have leading zeros when you're using temporal plain time, your stuff could break, right? And it'll throw up errors saying that it doesn't accept that time, right? Temporal plain time cannot create that time because it doesn't know how it works. And I suspect that's because it doesn't know if it's AM or PM, right? Without the leading zero, we default back to AM or PM, and we haven't really specified that. So something to be aware of. And the solution is, again, a little bit of defensive code just to make sure that it all works. So bringing it all home, right? We started out with data where we had 5 entries in our data, two different night entries to cover off midnight to 5 a.m. and 10 to midnight, right? 10 p.m. to midnight. Using that, we did a thing that I did not capture where we sorted alphabetically. So we set up our for loop and we sorted based on alphabetical, right? That can work. It sort of works if we can guarantee the shape of time coming into it. If that is consistent, then yes, absolutely, right? If we're getting that from a database where it only ever spits out ISO 8601 values, great. We're really consistent there, and we can kick it out the door, right? If that's not the case, and it starts with if it's missing its leading zero for whatever reason, then we need something more because that alphabetical sort doesn't work. And that's what we did. We added a function to convert it to a number so that the numbering of this is consistent, which means that now we can compare against all of that information. Great, right? That we did it. And this time now it works, right? From there, we reduced the amount of data that we're actually getting. So it's more likely that we would get something in the shape of this, where our nighttime hours would span over midnight, right? And we totally reworked that. So we added a little bit of extra conditional logic here to make sure that it is in the range. And then with all of that, we switched over to temporal and tried to manage this gotcha, right? Because if it got me, it might get you too. Or maybe you got lucky. But something to be aware of where temporal plain time is expecting an ISO 8601 value, which has leading zeros in 24-hour time. So be aware of it, okay? It does look like a little bit more code, right? And again, temporal doesn't work in Safari yet, at least at the time of this video. But when it does, I'm pretty sure that most of us will be using this all the time because it's just so easy, okay? That's it. That's a whole lot of code to explain a challenge that feels very easy, right? It felt like it should have been just a one and done, but in this case, a lot of little gotchas along the way. So hopefully that explanation made sense. If it didn't, if you hated it, if you liked it, if you found a different way that you want to share, drop that all in my comments. Otherwise, today this has been good day, and I We'll see you tomorrow.